Welcome to this Saturday travel and history tip, and this will be part 2 of our travels northward along U.S. Highway 83. Last Saturday, we visited Shamrock, Texas, and if you haven't watched that Saturday travel and history tip, I want to recommend that you do that. Our next stop was Liberal, Kansas. Kansas offers all kinds of great attractions and oddities, and on roadsideamerica.com you can find all these kinds of interesting places, and we have been to some of them but not most of them. For example, we've been to the Amelia Earhart Earthwork Face in Atchison. It is amazing. We've seen the Santa Fe Trail Tracks in Dodge City. In 2 weeks, we will be stopping off in Oakley to share with you the Buffalo Bill Kill Statue and the Fick Fossil and History Museum. Next week, we will take you to Grinnell and Monument Rocks and Little Jerusalem Badlands State Park. We've been to Hayes to see the famous fish within a fish fossil, and that is in our Creation Seminar series. The state is filled with all kinds of exciting places to see. In Kinsley, there's Midway, USA, which is the halfway point between New York City and San Francisco. In Wichita, we've been to the Pizza Hut Museum, and in Lebanon, where we saw the geographical center of the lower 48. Dorothys House, Wizard of Oz. Built in 1907 and donated to the Seward County Historical Society, Dorothys House has been carefully restored and furnished with period furnishings to reproduce the warmth of the farmhouse where Dorothy realized that there's no place like home. In the Land of Oz Museum, guides dressed as Dorothy offer tours down the yellow brick road through 5,000 square feet of animated entertainment. Good and Bad Witches, the Munchkins, Talking Trees, Winged Monkeys, and of course Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion are all there to enthrall children of all ages. Adults will enjoy the Oz memorabilia on display, including the original model of Dorothy's house used in the 1939 filming. The Visitor Center and gift shop are located in the Coronado Museum, but because of time constraints, we did not tour the Coronado Museum as we needed to head on up Highway 83. But on a return trip to Liberal, we will certainly go there and go see the library that is shaped like an open book. But as for today, we are going to go to Dorothy's house and the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure that many of you have seen this classic movie that is just part of American history and Americana. We use a lot of cliches from this film, like There's No Place Like Home. Join Dorothy in a guided tour through her home that L. Frank Baum wrote about in the classic The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. A home built in 1907 has been preserved and restored to reflect the Gale farmhouse. The late Max and Katie Zimmerman of Liberal attended an insurance convention in San Francisco in 1978, and he sheepishly admits he entered a restaurant with his name tag on, a sure sign of a conventioneer. Noting Max's state of origin, the waiter stated the obvious, "Oh, you're from Kansas. That's where Dorothy is from." Max asked the waiter, "What would you expect to see in Kansas?" The waiter replied he would expect to see Dorothy's house, like the one in The Wizard of Oz. After returning from the West Coast, Max shared the waiter's observation with the community and received some interest in Liberal becoming Dorothy's official home. It wasn't until 1981 that the idea took a closer step to becoming reality. As we parked out in the yard, we found the characters from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and this nice statue of Dorothy and Toto. And, of course, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion were along the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road.
Inside the gift shop and where you pay to enter, they had these fun signs, and one of the actual movie posters, "Watch out for tornadoes. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my." Speaking of cliches from the movie, There's No Place Like Home is probably the most famous. There's Munchkin Land and the Emerald City. Our guide was a very nice 23-year-old young lady, and she took us in to Dorothy's house. This home was originally built in 1907 and has been decorated to look like Dorothy's house. We took a picture of this calendar, January 1910, and noticed the wallpaper. I bet many of us have seen wallpaper similar to this in our grandmother's or great-grandmother's homes. What was interesting about this calendar is look what it says. Before us, and then the pins there, as behind, God is, and all is well. And then lower down it says, all that is outward changes and passes. Thy soul and God stand sure. I thought that was really nice that they had that in there. Here's a photograph that was on the wall of Dorothy's room. Inside the kitchen was an old-timey ice box. The ice would go in the very top, and there would be a drain pan to catch the water from the melted ice, and the ice would keep the items cool in this section of the ice box. In the next room, we found this creamer, where the cream and the milk were separated. Dorothy showed us these stilts. Maybe some of you have actually seen people make these homemade stilts out of cans, and some old school roller skates. After touring through Dorothys House, we went to the Land of Oz. It's kind of interesting because the whole thing is sort of old school, but it makes it better. It wasn't high tech, and we really enjoyed it. Our Dorothy did a great job of taking us through there. While we were in the first room, we experienced a storm, like the one that Dorothy experienced.
So Dorothy ran home, came to the gate, ran inside, and started yelling, "Adios! Adios! Uncle Henry!"
And here are some of the displays that they have throughout the Land of Oz as they go through major points of the film. And of course, no trip to the Wizard of Oz would be complete without a visit to the Emerald City.
So the four friends told them who they were and what they wanted.
Do you remember when Toto exposed the wizard? As we exited the Land of Oz, we entered the room where all the memorabilia was on display. One of the most fascinating things that they had was the model of Dorothys House that was used in the 1939 filming of The Wizard of Oz. The little gray farmhouse suspended in the display case is the actual model, which was used in the filming of the 1939 Metro-Goldwyn movie, The Wizard of Oz. The model house had been exhibited in San Francisco, California, and was donated to the Seward County Historical Society through the efforts of Oliver E. Brown. In the 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz, a little white Kansas farmhouse whirls through the dust and debris of a cyclone and comes to rest in the mythical Land of Oz, squashing the Wicked Witch of the East. Chemicals added to the paint used on the house made it appear white under the lighting used in color filming in 1948 and 1949. The model was damaged when it landed and was relegated to a shelf where it gathered dust for 30 years until MGM sold an accumulation of props at an auction in Los Angeles in 1970. The buyer was Stephen Young, who operated a San Francisco shop called Topeka. It was next sold to Monica Bailey of Berkeley, California. She grew up in the Midwest, loved the Oz books, and resolved to restore the model. Over a period of years, she restored the exterior of the house and created an interior. After a number of years, the little model again became deteriorated, and at the time of donation to the SCHS, it was once more in need of restoration. This was done by Raymond Hubbard of Liberal, who in addition created the floor model which you see below. The floor model was decorated and furnished to resemble an early 1900 farmhouse as shown in the Wizard of Oz movie. Along with paintings, and of course this one, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, is a whole collection of memorabilia from the Wizard of Oz, including one of the Munchkins' outfits. Very beautiful, very stunning. Across the room, along with some other photos, was a desk. What was interesting about the desk is it had a copy of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. And our Dorothy told us how the author came up with calling it Oz. Take a look at the file cabinet and see if you can figure it out yourself. Got it? O through Z in the filing cabinet. And that's how he came up with Oz. Baum was born in Chittenango, New York. He was a playwright, a novelist, and manager of his own opera house. Baum was a great storyteller. He loved making up stories and telling them to children. He wrote under 9 different names and authored over 75 books. He wrote 13 Oz books before he died and left one to be completed and published. Here are the Ruby Slippers of Oz. And as I have mentioned in other Saturday Travel and History Tips, pick up a postcard and mail one to a friend or two, but always mail one to yourself. American history. Learn it. Love it. Appreciate it. Don't let them steal our history. Treasure our American history. Thank you.